Thank you, Doc. So, I'm going to catch my breath. That takes me back many, many, many years when The Wiz was just coming out, and I was in the height of my dancing career working in Monte Carlo. And yeah, we'll get back to that. So, before we move into home today, well, welcome. Yeah, you see, I just forget everything. When he does his music to the extent and the depth that he can, it's impossible not to just let go of everything. All the stuff that I was thinking coming here, all of the busyness of the day is gone. And along with it, my brain. So help me find it, we'll bring it back. So, yeah, if you see it anywhere, just send it this way, I'll catch it. But I want to begin today because this week we honor our veterans. So if we have any veterans in the house, could you please stand for us? Yes, thank you. Thank you. And along with that, we honor all of our veterans that might be with us online. We thank and honor you. And there's a quote that I have from George W. Bush. He said, "We observe Veterans Day on an anniversary, not of a great battle or the beginning of a war, but of a day when war ended and our nation was again at peace." Ever since Armistice of November 11th, 1918, this has been a day to remember our debt, our gratitude to all who have worn the uniform of the United States of America. This is a day where we honor peace as we honor our veterans. And it's difficult for many because we all want peace, and war can be a very difficult topic to address. We're not going to address that today, but just lean into the knowingness that this is a day we honor those that brought us peace, brought peace to our country, and hopefully extend it to the world. So if you will just go quiet for one moment, I have a short prayer that our beloved Reverend Scott Aubrey shared with us. I tribute those who have served and died in war, and I affirm that humankind is coming to its senses, that every human soul awakens as an instrument of peace. May we be in a world where we do not live in fear, where a vision of hope, plenty, and peace is realized in our hearts and throughout the land. And so it is. All right. Thank you for standing witness to that honoring. So, let's get back to today. And our global themes for the topic for the month of November is home. Guess? Yeah. It is home. And the one thing about home is that we always want to try and create a space of wonderment. So you've got to start with something funny. The best way to keep teenagers at home is to make your home a place of love and comfort. Yeah, and let the air out of the tires of the car. Exactly. Exactly. We're going to force them to stay, no matter what. So the talk title for today is, There's No Place Like Home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. And of course, we know what the following line is that Dorothy comes to know. And we're going to save that one till later. We're going to begin with looking at a house versus a home. I think, it's really common knowledge. We always say home is where the heart is, which is fantastic. But we so often relate our home to a physical house somewhere. A house that has experienced memories and activities and family, and it's a house. But what makes that house a home? What changes it from just being a building? Because we know there are many houses that are not homes. Even in our families, there are many houses that are just not homes. For whatever reason, there's a feeling that is missing there. And then, of course, we have homes that are not houses. And that's what we're going to move towards. But this feeling that we get when we're home, it's a feeling of belonging, maybe? A feeling of being a part of history. I mean, let's face it. Sometimes we go home for our gatherings, and they're not a whole lot of fun, right? There's not a whole lot of fun there, but there's a lot of history. And that history counts for the sense of belonging to something, to belonging to this family. There's a sense of safety, even in the face of some places that are really not safe at all. Which is, it's so hard to look at that because you will go back there. We call it home, no matter what. And then we get this feeling tone that, oh, I'm drawn to home. People have always asked, are you going home? What does that really mean, are you going home? Are you going back to that place where you were filled up with joy, you're filled up with experiences, you're filled up with fear? No. We think home is just this wonderful, it's almost a dreamlike desire that we have to always honor home. And for many people, this dream is a reality. They get to go home. They get to reconnect with family. They get to reconnect with truth of their upbringing that was fantastic. They get to reconnect, especially when they are ones that travel a lot. People always go, we're going back home, right? So I have George Moore that says, a man travels the world over in search of what he needs and returns home to find it. Isn't that lovely? So when somebody says, you know, the best thing about traveling is going home, it's kind of like, yeah, we've been traveling and we've been enjoying and seeking, but we go home to find ourselves. We go home to find that. Well, when I used to hear that from my colleagues when I was traveling and dancing, that wasn't the truth for me. I literally didn't have a home. I literally didn't. I left South Africa with 2 bags, and that was my home, these 2 bags. Wherever I was, that was it. You know, it didn't matter if it was a studio in Paris, if it was a hotel while I was on the road. It didn't matter if I was sharing somebody's couch. And I mean sharing somebody's couch. I'm not saying I had the couch to myself, you know. So I never had that home, that sense of going back to a home. But this didn't bother me. There was a reason behind that. But I always felt maybe it was the gypsy in me. You know, strap it up, you know, or put my little stick with a little bag and off I went. You know, I'm home. I'm traveling. This way of being was another way of being home because there was so much security and just, I don't know, joy in that whole experience. Maybe a little bit like a turtle. You know, now that we have turtles, maybe a little bit like a snail. Anything that has a shell, that carries its home with it always. Wherever it is, I'm home. Shut the little door. I'm in. So that was a way for me when I was traveling and having that experience in my life. Home was any little place. Now, I didn't decorate. I sure as hell didn't decorate. Get up in a hotel room, unpack everything, decorate. No, not at all. In fact, there was one time where I didn't have anywhere to put anything, and I was staying for several months with friends in San Diego when I first arrived there. And so I had my suitcase underneath the sink in the spare bathroom, layered like a drawer. That was my drawer. Was I home? I was home. This is where I was. I never had that sense. And people would say, well, are you going home? I go, well, yeah, about 10:30-ish. And they go, no, no, no. Are you going back to South Africa? I'm like, yeah, no. No. South Africa was a place I was born and raised. There's a lot of memory there. There's a lot of old friends. There's a lot of great connection. But it ain't my home. My home is right here, right where I am. And I worked with South Africans on the road, and their parents would come, or family would come, and they'd all connect, they'd go, gosh, it was just like going home. And I'm like thinking, yeah, it's overrated. But no, it was for them because of that connection that they so loved, that sense of belonging and bringing everybody together. But I loved the idea of being home wherever I was. There was a peace about it. There was a freedom about it. And still, every now and then, I would be just a smidgen envious. Just a smidgen. I'd be like, what am I missing out on? What is this thing that I might be missing out on because I'm not going traveling back? Now, just to put a little bit of extra information about this, moms tend to be the ones that hold the house together, right? Mom goes, I'm around, you come in. So once my mom passed, right before I turned 20, that wasn't there. Not that my dad wasn't wonderful, don't get me wrong, but that home, that calling. So when I flew out of South Africa to go to Europe, Mom was here, right? So I didn't have her calling me home to South Africa every year for whatever event there was. So there was a freedom that I was given to literally be that gypsy, to take my home, put it on my back, and be wherever I was. But I would ask them, I would ask my friends, what is it ultimately that is drawing you back to home? What is it? Can you describe it for me? Is it the events? Is it the connection with the old friends? Is it going back into your old bedroom? What is it that draws you back? What is it that makes that place, that space, that house? Because it might not have been the house that they grew up in. It could be another house. What makes that your home? You know what they would say? Unconditional love. Yeah, that was it. It was unconditional love. Now, we do know that some homes are not always so filling with unconditional love. But we go there for the unconditional love of the bloodline, of the family that raised you. If it's not blood, it is unconditional love. And even if we don't see it or find it when we get there, we still seek it, and we'll keep going back, and we'll keep going back, and we'll keep going back, because that is where we believe our unconditional love lies. So I have a little something to share from you from Mark Nepo, who is my guru. Let me tell you something. I read his book every single morning, The Book of Awakenings. If you want something that inspires you, grab it. I got to tell you, he is quite amazing. Anyway, he speaks about unconditional love like this. He says, much is said about unconditional love today, and I fear that it has been misconstrued as an extreme form of turning the other cheek. He says, however, this exaggerated passivity is quite different from the unimpeded flow of love that carries who we are. That unconditional love is an unimpeded flow that carries who we are. He says, in truth, unconditional love does not require a passive acceptance of whatever happens in the name of love. Rather, in the real spaces of our daily relationships, it means maintaining a commitment that no condition will keep us from bringing all of who we are to each other honestly. Those are some powerful words. The truth is, unconditional love does not require passive acceptance of whatever happens in the name of love. Rather, in the real spaces of our daily relationships, it means maintaining a commitment that no condition will keep us from bringing all of who we are to each other honestly. My goodness, therein lies the truth of unconditional love, is to be there, to show up. And even when we're having a bad day and we can say something that is really maybe a little unkind because we're not thinking or whatever, we can call each other on it. We can say, well, stop. No. That's not going any further than this right now. And we can see each other and be with each other and know that that is the truth, that this is not the truth of who we are. This is not the truth of our relationship. We can take a step, see each other and heal right there and then. This is unconditional love. Because this passive, oh, I love you, so I let you get away with whatever you want to do or how you want to do it or however much you want to hurt me, whatever you want to say. No, that is not it. Unconditional love holds you accountable to be the best version of yourself that you can be and lift everybody else around you. That's unconditional love. That is it. That is the way. And he has one last sentence that he adds to it. He says this, he goes, unconditional love is not the hole in us that receives the dirt, but the sun within that never stops shining. I'm telling you right now, I just want to go, because think about that. Unconditional love is not a hole that receives dirt. We are not sitting here, standing here going, oh, I love you so much, dump on me. No, not at all. I love you so much that I'm going to say no. That is not acceptable. You don't get to do that. You don't get to say that. You don't get to not care and get away with it. No. Unconditional love stands strong with soft hands and a very wide open heart. And it takes courage to do it. It takes love to do it. It takes a desire to continue your relationships to do that. It's way easier to go, whoop, I'm not going to handle that one again. No, that's not unconditional love. That's a cop-out. That's just like going, I am not worthy of what I believe I should be giving to you. You want me to say that again? I am not worthy of what I believe I should be giving to you. So I'm going to walk away just in case you ask the same of me, because I don't think I'm worthy of it. I'm not worthy of you standing in the fire with me. I'm not worthy of you going, you know what? That's not working for me, but I really love you enough to stand next to you so that we can work through this together. We live in a very disposable society. And one of the things we dispose of most frequently are relationships. We really do. We will walk away for no reason at any given time just because somebody looked at you wrong. And we make up a huge story around it. And it's, you know, and it's when I tell people, whenever something really comes to you and hurts you, and you're like going, what the hell was going on there? Stop for 1 second and think, maybe there's more to be known. Maybe there's something going on in this person's life, unlike what we're used to. They haven't shared it. People don't share. And they specifically don't share with those closest to them because they have a belief that they're going to be unconditionally loved and supported. So take that minute to stop and go, my goodness, that person didn't even say hello to me yesterday. I sat and had dinner with them all night and they ignored me. What was maybe going on in the background? That's love. That's unconditional love. That's the willingness to reach out and wrap somebody in it. Because people are more than disposable. They truly are. We know as we get older that we have fewer and fewer of sort of associated friends because we decide to bring things in closer. But you know what? We can extend our love out to everybody. Because love is that energy that goes out into the world, comes back around, feeds us, feeds everybody, and nurtures this planet. And here's another thing about unconditional love. Because many people feel they've never experienced it. They've never had home, per se. They've never had something to come back to. It's around us all the time. The love of God is unconditional. Yes. The love of God, no matter how you want to see God, and I'm a scientist when it comes to that. It's pure energy for me. It's energy, right? It's not a guy in the sky going, I love you. No, it is energy. It's a creative force, and that creative force is loving, and loving unconditionally. We are created fully formed with everything we need within our body. Every single cell has its own blueprint to know what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And it is fully supplied with everything around us. This is how we come. We are created that way. Even the moss, and you know I love talking about the moss on the tree. Even the moss on the tree is created to grow on the side of the tree that is away from the equator, so that it doesn't get burnt by the sun. This is unconditional love. I mean, it's moss, right? It's moss. But it is so perfectly placed because it is loved by that same energy, that same creative force that created me. Every cell of my body has everything it needs. Do you think that it wasn't love that created that? Unconditional love. The same unconditional love that brings the rain so the flowers can bloom. The same unconditional love that unfortunately will shake this earth and reform it, because what comes forward from it is love again. It is unconditional love. This is the love of God. And the best thing about it is, it's everywhere. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to be anybody. You don't have to do anything. It's unconditional. It just is. The only thing we have to do is receive it. There's the key. The only thing we have to do is receive it. All we have to do is come home. In our minds, in our spirit, all we have to do is come home to be in that unconditional love. God is urging me to come home, to enter into this light, and to discover there that in God, all people are unique and completely loved. Isn't that just wonderful? This is from Henry Nouwen, who wrote The Return of the Prodigal Son. And we all know the story of the prodigal son, the coming home. Yes, we read that story. We know that story is about, the father who had his son go out, spend all his money, came home, opened up, the coffers, did the fatted cow and everything, right? That's a real bad summary of the story, but you guys have heard the story before. This is God. It doesn't matter where you've gone or what you've done. It doesn't matter how much you have messed up in your life or feel that you have made the biggest mistakes and not made the right choice. It makes no difference. God is saying, come home. And I'm not talking about dying and going to heaven. I'm saying right here, right now, where you are. You are welcome home. We say that here. God is saying it every minute of every day. Come on home. Come on home. And we are never alone with that because we're all home together. Dr. Ernest Holmes says this, no one walks life's road alone. There is ever another who walks with him or her, the inner self, the undying reality. Let us learn to be still and let the truth speak through us. To be still and know that the inner light shines. That this inner light is God's unconditional love. The inner light is God's unconditional love. So let's visit that one quote that I said at the beginning. A man travels the world over in search of what he needs and returns home to find it. You can seek and seek and seek and seek for unconditional love. And all you have to do is be right here, right now, and you have returned home. That's it. It's that simple. It's that easy. There is zero doing involved, but there's being involved. So no matter, you roam the world and seek for everything you need, and you return home to find it. That awareness is the thing that we seek in ourselves. Nothing can be nearer to you than that which is the very essence of your own being. Your outward search culminates in the greatest of all possibilities, of all possible discoveries, finding God at the center of your own being. Right here, right now. You need do nothing. So when Dorothy said, there's no place like home, there's no place like home, there's no place like home, what are the lines that come after that? I was home all the time. Can we remember that? We are home. We are in that space of unconditional love. We are in that space of belonging right now. Already. So there's no place like home? Yeah, but it is right here, in us, around us, through us, and as us. So today I have an invitation for you to re-find your feeling and security of home in the divine. As we come together in that awareness, we can create a home right here. We can create that space and that knowingness, that feeling of belonging, that feeling of it doesn't matter what has gone before. It doesn't matter if somebody peed you off this morning. It doesn't matter. Put out your arms and just pull those people in. It's okay. It doesn't make you vulnerable in any shape or form. In fact, it makes you stronger because you are part. You are a brick. You are the mortar of this home. And it can be part of this home that we call Center for Spiritual Living East Hawaii. Come home and belong. So in closing, I have one last little piece from Mark Nepo. Unconditional love is not so much about how we receive and endure each other as it is about the deep vow to never, under any condition, stop bringing the full truth of who we are to each other. I'm going to say that again, and I'm going to use this microphone. Unconditional love is not so much about how we receive and endure each other as it is about the deep vow to never, under any condition, stop bringing the flawed truth of who we are to each other. Now I can go back to the tears. Let us take this to prayer. So we breathe. We breathe into this space. We breathe into this knowingness, and we breathe into this feeling. Because it is the feeling of unconditional love that home truly is. It may live in a house. It may live in a shell. It may live in a suitcase. It can live wherever it needs to, but it is a feeling, and it is the feeling of knowing that the divine is present everywhere, with arms extended wide, with the givingness of the creation all around. And we are not separated from it. There is nothing we can do to not receive this unconditional love except to not open our heart. So I know for each and every one of us today that we throw our hearts wide open. We throw our arms and our ideas and our minds wide open so that we can receive this unconditional love and share it and be it and stand in that place where we bring our flawed selves and receive each other in this place of loving and belonging. And we call it home. So I know that this is the truth of who we are, and I know that Spirit is saying, come on home, everybody. Come and be your finest, most magnificent selves. And I call it good. So I release this prayer knowing that it is done. And together we can claim it by saying, and so it is.